sends the first group of refugees back to Turkey under a new deal with the European Union. South African President Jacob Zuma faces an impeachment motion. And a Ugandan filmmaker churns out action hits on a shoestring budget. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Migrants and refugees are on the move in Europe, and for some, it's not good news. The first group of Syrian refugees sent from Turkey under a controversial program have arrived in Europe. The 16 asylum seekers arrived in the northern Germany on Monday. Another group of 16 is also expected on Monday. Meanwhile, deported migrants sent to Turkey from the Greek islands of Lesbos began disembarking from the boats. Officials say 131 migrants, mostly South Asians, arrived in Dikili Monday. They were escorted by one from the boats to a registration center. Now, the deportations from Lesbos signals the activation of a controversial plan criticized by human rights groups to stem illegal migration into Europe. Under an agreement between Turkey and the European Union, those who reach the shores of Greece unlawfully will be returned to Turkey unless they qualify for asylum. For every illegal Syrian refugee returned to Turkey from Greece, another will be resettled from Turkey to the European Union.
What we need to see are urgent safeguards in both countries to address existing gaps and insufficient safeguards, so that those that need protection are able to access a credible, robust system here in Greece to express their concerns about safety and heightened risk before any returns can take place. And we feel that these safeguards are still not fully in place, not here in Greece and not in Turkey as well.
Well, the EU-Turkey deal aims to break up the lucrative people smuggling operations that operate out of Turkey. Amnesty International has accused Turkey of expelling groups of Syrian migrants from the country, an allegation Turkey denies. Now, moving on, still in Europe, in Belgium, the Brussels airport partially reopened on Sunday. A limited number of flights will soon begin arriving and departing the airport nearly 2 weeks after suicide bombers carried out a deadly attack in the main terminal. Now, the airport blasts and another at a nearby metro station killed 32 people and destroyed the airport departure area, while 3 Brussels Airlines flights departed Sunday evening. The airport is calling them symbolic flights, with more to be added in the coming days. Brussels Airport Company CEO Arnold Feist says it will take a month before the airport is fully operational. On to Africa now. Gun battles erupted in Congo on Monday between security forces and gunmen, shattering relative calm in the capital that had followed President Sassou Nguesso's re-election in a disputed poll last month. Now, the fighting occurred in the Brazzaville opposition strongholds of Makelekele and Bakongo. Hundreds of residents of southern Brazzaville fled their neighborhoods on foot towards the city's north. A government spokesman says the attack was launched by former members of a militia that fought President Nguesso in a 1997 civil war. Mr. Nguesso won re-election on March 20th after pushing through constitutional changes in an October referendum to remove age and term limits that would have prevented him from standing again. Opposition candidates say the election was a fraud and have called for a campaign of civil disobedience. Now, over the weekend, Kenya marked the one-year anniversary of the terror attack on Garissa University. The massacre killed 148 people, most of them students. The terrorist group Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the violence, saying it was a payback for Kenya's military actions in Somalia. Mohammed Yusuf reports from Nairobi, where some parents of the victims held a vigil.
Most of those killed in the terror attack on Garissa University, northeastern Kenya, were students.
I remember this day with a lot of pain. It reminds me how I lost my daughter. She was a hard-working girl and everyone liked her. She wanted to continue with her studies so that she could live a good life.
The parents lit candles and one by one stood to talk about their loss. Some spoke of their frustration with the government. It took security forces over 7 hours to arrive at the university to subdue the 4 gunmen.
Kama sisi tutapewa kiazi hata kama ni kiazi gani ya compensation tupewe tusiwe tukiitwa kila mara.
We want to be compensated no matter how little it is. We don't want to be coming back here every time parents are crying. When they keep calling us back, they are reminding us of our children. We are requesting the government to compensate with us. We don't want to be coming back to Nairobi.
The organizers of this vigil say the government has promised the matter will be addressed.
We have gathered here today to commemorate the first anniversary since that brutal murder of our children. Yesterday, we spent day long in the office of the President talking to relevant authorities.
That did not convince some parents who threatened to demonstrate outside the President's office, but were later told to come to this conference hall and government officials will address them. 4 hours later, no government official had come. Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Nairobi.
Now, going back to Europe, we started by talking about the deportation of migrants from Greece, the Greek islands of Lesbos, to Turkey. Now, we're joined via phone from Dikili in Turkey by reporter Natalie Bertrams. Hi, Natalie.
Hi there.
Yes, now, tell us first about the arrival of this 130-plus migrants in Turkey. What has been the reaction there?
Well, it was a quiet day. It was kind of an eerie silence everywhere. Locals were sitting around the harbor watching the boats arrive. So there were 3 boats arriving, around 200 people in total came, and a lot of media, obviously. And so it was really very well stage managed. It was almost totally shut off with tarpaulins, so we could not really see the people coming from the boats where they were recepted, and they had to register. You could only see a glimpse of them taken out from the boat one by one, and had a police officer to each side. So, and it was a very slow process. So yes. There were not groups coming in. So yes.
Now, Natalie, what is the fate of most of this? We hear that a majority of them are not Syrians, or a great number of them. What is their fate?
There were a lot of buses waiting for them. So after the registration, they were all put in buses, and the buses obviously went to the north of Turkey, in Edirne, close to the Bulgarian border. And what will happen to them is really totally unclear because they are unwanted here. They're not eligible for any asylum in Europe because most of them are Pakistanis, Afghanis, Bangladeshis, as we heard. So we don't know, and that is the problem of this deal. So nobody knows what's happening to them now.
Okay, so very quickly, in terms of the Syrians, so this is again a little, we can say, advantage to the Syrians who qualify, right?
Well, a lot of Syrians we heard in Lesbos have filed for asylum now there. Yes, of course, it is an advantage to be Syrian when you're sent back here because Syrians are officially taken as guests in this country. But wow. I would say it's still a very black day for human rights because it's a very shady deal, you know, trading off one Syrian to go and one Syrian to come back, and it doesn't really match. And the unanswered questions are so many for us here.
Well, many questions yet to be answered in the coming days. Natalie, thank you very much. Now, Natalie Bertrams reporting live phone from Dikili in Turkey. All the way now to South Africa, where the parliament there is set to debate Tuesday on an opposition motion to impeach President Jacob Zuma for violating the Constitution. Now, the Constitutional Court ruled last week that Zuma failed to uphold, defend and respect the Constitution by failing to pay back some of the public funds he used to make improvements on his private home. But Zuma's ruling African National Congress dominates parliament, and any effort to impeach him is likely to fail.
Our view is that there's overreaction on the part of the opposition parties. There is also an element of sensationalization of the judgment. The call for impeachment is nothing new, nor is it genuine. is an ongoing election platform ploy resuscitated every single year by the opposition in the form of either a vote of no confidence or now the impeachment call. So from where we're seated, we are not surprised by the opposition calling for impeachment. They've done that two months ago, where they called for a vote of no confidence, which collapsed.
Well, President Zuma said last week that he never knowingly or deliberately set out to violate the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the Republic. For more insight on the controversy, joining us by phone from Johannesburg is South Africa is Kaya Khumalo, a political reporter with Kaya FM Radio. Hello, Kaya.
Hi there, sir, and how are you?
I'm fine. Now, tell us first, it looks like ANC is very comfortable about this upcoming motion. Why?
Well, obviously, there are quite a number of reasons why the ANC is fairly comfortable when it comes to the looming impeachment against President Jacob Zuma. The party sits comfortably with quite a number of members in Parliament, whereby the matter will be debated tomorrow. So the DA, which is the main opposition party in South Africa, is spearheading the motion. And this time, they believe that they are backed by the constitutional courts, because this is not the first time that we see such an attempt to remove President Jacob Zuma from the office. So the Democratic Alliance is using Section 89 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, whereby they are stating clearly that there is clear evidence that President Jacob Zuma violated the Constitution of the country by virtue of his failure to ensure that he complies with the findings and remedial action that were taken by the public protector in as far as the security upgrades are concerned.
Now, Kaya, regardless of what section of the Constitution, without the numbers, the opposition obviously has an uphill task. What do South Africans think?
Well, certainly it's going to be a very acid test. But what the opposition party has been saying to even the ANC MPs is that they should really use their conscience. So they should not be voting based on the party lines. So hence now they're pushing for a secret ballot box, so where MPs can be allowed at least to vote, where everything, would be secretly conducted, as opposed to whereby everyone can see what is done. But quite a lot of South Africans, they're supporting the opposition for quite a number of times when the Democratic Alliance has been talking about a vote of no confidence against President Jacob Zuma. A lot of South Africans have been questioning that, saying what is it all about? But with the constitutional courts having stated categorically that the president violated the Constitution, a lot of South Africans are supporting that. And even some members of the ANC, for example, we know that the ANC here in South Africa is part of the Tripartite Alliance. So some members of the South African Communist Party are also backing the call for the president to step aside.
Kaya, thank you very much. Something to look forward to tomorrow. Kaya Khumalo is a political reporter with Kaya FM in Johannesburg, South Africa. To West Africa now, Niger President Mahamadou Issoufou is beginning his second five-year term with a promise to keep up the fight against Islamist militants. Issoufou was sworn in Saturday after a controversial election boycotted by the opposition. Issoufou was re-elected in a runoff with about 92% of the vote. Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vincent Makori. Coming up, the U.S. Nuclear Security Summit closed with the world's vulnerable fissile materials still at risk. Stay with us.
Voice of America is on air, reaching more than 130 million weekly, worldwide, in more than 40 languages. Online, social media, and breaking news from around the world. On the go, dozens of new features on popular platforms with new apps and trending topics. Voice of America, on air, online, on the go.
Well, in business news, the strength in commodities has been the driver behind the stock market rally. Africa 54's business correspondent Jill Malandrino in New York is joined by Mark Fredigan of Eligo Energy to discuss the strength in the natural gas market.
The easy money trade still matters as the Federal Reserve and global central banks maintain their very dovish posture and keep monetary policy very accommodative. Phil, this rally has got to be, in the short term, overextended. We're simply not seeing any selling here. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, obviously, you've got ever since the Fed notes came out and at the meeting and they put out the statement in the middle of February, we've been on a tear going straight up. And Yellen yesterday just put boosters on the rocket, essentially just sending us to the moon. And now we're back to essentially the highs of the year, or a little bit past the highs of the year for now. And but there's nothing to it. If you look at the volume's not that high, and it's really just another one of those, more free money kind of parties that they're never going to stop printing money.
Right.
But it's no reason to boost the market. The earnings don't cover it at all.
Well, since February 11th, we're up 14%. Do retail investors, do you chase at this point? Do you think they've missed the ride, or they should wait for that pullback and put the cash to work?
They missed the ride. We're telling my guys, I just wrote my article this morning, and I told my guys, I'm like, you know what, we're going to start cashing out of our winners now, because we played it very well. We went short we went short, and then we went long into the Fed meeting because we expected them to pop it back up. They did pop it back up. And now we're basically going to sell off the winners and wait until after earnings maybe to start getting back into things.
Do you think it could also be that we're going... Right. Well, it could also be a function that we're going into the end of the quarter as well. Clearly, managers have to show that they have stocks on the books. And then we're also coming up into selling season for taxes on April 15th. So there could potentially be some volatility in this market.
There's too many ways that things can go wrong. And like you said, this could all be just window dressing ahead of the end of the quarter so that, all the financial companies get to make nice brochures and show pretty charts to people and tell them to put their money into the market. That's a load of garbage that goes on all the time. But on the whole, yeah, the earnings are going to be scary. I mean, especially in the material sectors and the oil sector and energy. Earnings are going to be horrific. Financials are even going to take a hit this quarter. So why do we have to be in? Why do you have to be invested? We can sit on the sideline, wait, watch, and pick up bargains.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Phil. In New York, for the Voice of America, I'm Jill Malandrino.
U.S. President Barack Obama is calling on the international community to work urgently to ensure that nuclear weapons do not get into the hands of terrorists or others who want to do harm. President Obama closed his fourth and final nuclear security summit on Friday without meeting a key goal to secure the world's vulnerable nuclear materials. Here's VOA's White House correspondent Mary Alice Salinas.
President Obama says the summit resulted in important commitments by more than 50 nations to improve nuclear security. But with terror groups like Islamic State bent on obtaining nuclear materials, their work is far from done.
No terrorist group has yet succeeded in getting their hands on a nuclear device. Our work here will help ensure that we're doing everything possible to prevent that.
The terror attacks in Belgium contained a reminder of the danger. Investigators say the attackers had surveyed nuclear power plants and staff. Another reminder, a car bomb in Turkey on Thursday.
As ISIL is squeezed in Syria and Iraq, we can anticipate it lashing out elsewhere, as we've seen most recently and tragically in countries from Turkey to Brussels. And this means that the sense of urgency that we've shown in destroying ISIL in Iraq and Syria also has to infuse our efforts to prevent attacks around the world.
Still, the White House says the summit resulted in concrete steps to better secure nuclear material. 27 nations and Interpol agreed to take action to prevent so-called insider threats, or threats by personnel with access to nuclear and radiological materials. But relatively few made commitments to do more on nuclear smuggling. North Korea's nuclear and long-range missile tests were a key focus of the talks. Obama and the leaders of Japan and South Korea called for strict enforcement of tough new UN sanctions. China's President Xi Jinping agreed to strengthen cooperation on North Korea's nuclear threat. One key player, Russia, skipped the summit, saying the process had run its course. Obama touted the Iran nuclear deal as one example of the summit's success.
What's next is to sustain that momentum, sustain that steady improvement by handing off the task to other global organizations, and in particular, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the United Nations, and other organizations.
With Obama due to leave office in January, the summit ended with declarations of support for global groups like Interpol and the UN's nuclear watchdog group to continue working on nuclear security. Mary Alice Salinas, VOA News, the White House.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Big on-screen action on a small budget. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. The International Criminal Court is set to give a verdict whether to drop charges against Deputy President William Ruto and his co-accused Joshua Arap Sang. In Djibouti, due to its strategic position, U.S. and French forces carried out training exercises on the former French colony, whose value is increasing as a strategic military base. In South Africa, President Jacob Zuma makes his first public appearance 2 days before Parliament is due to debate a motion to impeach him. In Libya, militants attack a Tripoli TV channel that backs Libya's self-declared government. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. The stars slayed the red carpet at the iHeartRadio Music Awards. Taylor Swift turned heads in a skin-tight, snakeskin black jumpsuit and sky-high boots. Selena Gomez also chose to wear a jumpsuit with a buckled cutout at the waist that flaunted her fit physique. Simple sandals and a black wrap choker added a touch of retro flair. Zendaya wore a red and black tailored suit with a sheer bra top, a blunt cut bob, sleek leather booties, and rings on every finger completed her chic rockstar look. Taylor Swift was the big winner of the night, taking home her Album of the Year of her best-selling 1989, as well as a Female Artist of the Year and Best Tour. Well, and finally, with the slogan, "No noise, only your voice," a Scandinavian company is winning military contracts with its jawbone technology headset. Now, Swedish company Invisio says it allows wearers to communicate clearly even if they were standing in front of a roaring jet engine. The in-ear device is positioned so it just touches the jawbone, with user's voice transmitted up the bone to the microphone and then sent to the radio. It can also help protect military personnel's hearing by cancelling external noise by bringing loud noises like explosions or gunshots down to a safer level. The technology also has non-military users. French security forces will be wearing the headsets during the Euro 2016 Football Championship in June, and that is what is trending today. Now, you are probably aware of Hollywood, and you may have heard of Africa's biggest movie producer, Nollywood, in Nigeria. Now, we bring you the story of Wakaliwood. This is a film studio located outside Kampala, Uganda, where Ugandan filmmaker dubbed Africa's Quentin Tarantino has been churning out action-packed hits that are grabbing an international audience online. Sejino Rusblad has more.
These are scenes from Who Killed Captain Alex, released in 2010. The trailer went viral online, and since then, the fan base for Walika Wood's low-budget films has only grown in Uganda and abroad. The movies are packed with kung fu battles, gunfights and suspense. But director Isaac Nabwana says for all the explosions, his movies are also about real life.
There are so many stories, like Who Killed Captain Alex is depicting a picture of, the ghetto life, where we see, young taking marijuana or something like that, and then they become hostile and the government chases them, something like that.
The actors rehearsed the studio's current production, Ugandan Expendables. Isaac started Walika Wood in 2005, inspired by Chinese-American film star Bruce Lee and American TV series like Hawaii Five-0. His wife was skeptical of his dream at first.
It needs a lot of money, and we don't have that money. So where will we get that? And he said, I want to do action movies. And I said, oh my goodness, action movies? You're crazy. Where will we get the real guns?
The solution has been to make what they need from scrap, like this crane. Walika Wood has produced 40 films, all written and directed by Isaac.
We make everything as a team. First we sit and we say, okay, here is the script. Now, what are we going to do? Okay, we exchange ideas. And if we need like a house in the movie, so someone, do you have a house? Yeah, I can provide. Who has a car? Oh, me, I can borrow. Okay, we do it like that.
And the stunts are performed by the actors.
Yeah, in fact, it is difficult because it has some pains. Because, action movies, we normally do something which is next to reality. So if it means to fall down. If it means to kick or to be kicked or punch.
It takes Isaac about a month to complete a film, which he also edits and distributes. He puts them on YouTube and sells DVDs in Uganda. US and European fans have helped finance his new pictures via online crowdfunding campaigns.
Ugandan Expendables!
His latest film, Ugandan Expendables, is slated for release in April. Serginho Roosblad for VOA News, Kampala.
Well, that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us here in Washington. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Sometimes it can be hard to hold on to things. But what does this expression mean?
Get a grip.
Oh no! I can't believe I did not set my alarm last night. Now I'm going to be late for work, my boss will yell at me, and we'll probably get fired.
Jonathan, get a grip. You will not be fired. Just calm down and explain what happened to your boss.
Okay, I guess you're right. I need to get a grip.
To get a grip means to make an effort to control your emotions. When you have a grip on something, you are able to be fully in control. Get a grip can also mean to get a better understanding of something. And that's English in a Minute.